If you thought this guy had mastered the art of triggering Labor and the rusted on Labor faithful, wait until you get a load of this.
Hello.
Purple Pingers, aka Jordan Vandenlam, aka Scourge of both landlords and real estate agents, has been pumping out content online for a while now. A majority of his stuff is focused on highlighting just how grim things are for the 30 or so % of the voting population that are renting, and at the same time he shines a light on some of the shady practices that landlords and real estate agents engage in to the detriment of their tenants. I have to admit, I'm not really an active TikTok user, so I'd kind of just stumbled onto the work of Purple Pingers thanks to Twitter. Before I started seeing him pop up, I guess as Australia's de facto spokesperson for renters, on TV.
Social media influencer called Purple Pingers.
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 Professor Pingers. Your boy, Purple Pingers.
The government says they want to build a bunch of homes in 10 years. Like, we've got a bunch of homes at the moment. I feel like they should be used.
Heck, Purple Pingers even made time to pop up on the housing episode of Q&A.
Hello.
Which is something that the Federal Housing Minister wasn't able to do.
And you started like a whole TikTok account sharing these stories. What kind of stories did you start getting?
Just the worst ones. Yeah, I think like every renter will know the kind of story, but perhaps people on that panel won't.
Right. Woo. And
we should be really embarrassed at the standard that we're forcing some people to live in because they can't afford to live anywhere else. And, you know, their alternative is homelessness. So you've got to live in, like, quite frankly, a shithole or on the street.
Personally, I think he's done a great job of leveraging his following to build a profile that he's been able to put to good use. And now he's going that one step further.
At the next federal election, I'll be running for the Senate with Victorian Socialists.
No doubt Pingers joining the Victorian Socialists will disappoint all those that had written him off as a Greens shill, but his reasons for not joining up with the Greens might make both the Labor and Coalition rusted-ons just a little bit uncomfortable.
Why not the Greens? And I do want to preface this by saying I do like the Greens, but they're not a socialist party. They believe that we can engage with the systems of capitalism to produce better outcomes for people, and I just believe that's inherently untrue. I'm a socialist. I believe in the destruction of capitalism rather than our negotiation with capitalism. There are socialists within the Greens, and this is a quote from Adam Bant, who says, "I've always been of the view that as we fight to tackle the climate crisis and the inequality crisis, we should be campaigning side by side with socialists." That's nice. I don't think that goes far enough. Also, really importantly, the Victorian Socialists have a no landlord for candidates policy, so we just don't have landlords running in any council, federal or state election. That's really important to me. The Greens do have landlords in their party, and that's wrong. I don't think we can, agree that this housing crisis is fucked while there are landlords kind of serving in Parliament saying that the housing crisis is fucked because they're benefiting from this crisis. But I also do want to acknowledge that those landlords from the Greens have implemented rent freezes and stuff like that, which is nice, but they're still enabling a system that oppresses people. So, So in summary, why not the Greens? I'm a socialist. The Greens aren't socialists, although they do have socialists in the Greens. And number two, I fucking hate landlords. And Vic Socialist has a policy that no landlords run as candidates, and the Greens have landlords in Parliament. Far less, might I add, than the Labor and the Liberal parties, but still landlords.
There are 6 Victorian Senate spots up for grabs at the next federal election. Of the 6, only Jane Hume and James Paterson have any real sort of name recognition. Oh, that's aside from old Senator Sixpack here, who resigned from the Liberal Party amid allegations of inappropriate behaviour, but he chose not to give up his Senate seat and has continued to leech off the public purse since. The 2 Labor senators, though, they aren't exactly household names. I mean,
do you want to play a game?
Can you name them? If you said Jess Walsh and Raf Saccone, congrats. If you had no idea, it doesn't really matter. All you need to know is that their position on the housing crisis will be exactly the same as the new housing ministers. Both appear to be landlords, and the scale of this guy's holdings is probably anyone's guess, given he's got a family trust listed, with its nature of operation being property investment.
It's Mr. Landlord!
landlord. Hello, Mr. Landlord.
One of my many flaws is that I'm a bit of a pessimist, or an overly aggressive realist, if that's a thing. I'll make it a thing. Let's make it a thing.
It's a thing.
Anyway, the reality is that if you're not tied to a major party, the odds are stacked against you. And the realist in me says that Jordan is going to need a lot to go his way to score a seat. But honestly, good on him for having a crack. Australian politics needs a shake-up, and the status quo is clearly getting us nowhere fast. If Jordan is successful in securing a spot in the Senate, it might send a message to the major parties, a message that they obviously haven't been listening to at this point, and that is that the status quo just isn't cutting it. There'll probably be no shortage of people looking to pile on to Pingers given his social media background, which I think is a little unfair given that currently it appears that the Federal Housing Minister is spending more time trying to build a social media profile than building actual housing. She's really putting in the work to develop her meme game, that's for sure.
Look at this graph. Look at this graph! Why do politicians keep banging on about Australia building more homes?
Because banging on about building more homes is the easy part. You can hold press conferences out front of a freshly built home, drop big sounding numbers and people instantly get it. It's an easy sell. It's intuitive and quickly makes sense to people. We don't have enough homes, so let's build more homes. Sure, more homes is part of the puzzle, but in choosing to bang on about building more, you're not only keeping property developers happy, you're also avoiding having to talk about the far thornier issues and what else might be done to help ease the housing crisis. Building more homes is far easier to sell than, say, changes to a tax system that has led to housing becoming a speculative asset for investors rather than a basic human right. It's far easier to bang on about building more homes than it is to address the cause of what has led to thousands of vacant homes gathering dust across the country. It's far easier to bang on about building more homes than it is to explain why you refuse to invest in actual public housing. It's far easier to bang on about building more housing than it is to explain why successive governments of the past couple of decades have continued to push those people who would previously have been able to rely on public housing out into the private market, a market that they simply can't afford to compete in. Jeez, Claire, you've distracted me. Back to purple pingers.
Hello.
The Victorian Socialists have some interesting policies when it comes to who they'll allow to run under their banner, and a major shift away from what you'd expect from the major parties. For example, if he's successful, Jordan won't be cashing in the usual senator's salary. Instead, he'll pocket the average wage and donate the rest. And he's not allowed to be a landlord either, although I get the feeling that that's not really his style anyway.
At the next election, don't vote for a landlord, vote for change.
In an interview with Crikey, Jordan was asked why he's channeling his energy into running for Senate, I guess rather than focusing more on the activism side of things, given the remote likelihood of success. And as he kind of alluded to, I think the answer is, why not do both? I mean, they aren't mutually exclusive. Even if he misses out on a Senate seat, the act of running for Senate alone will give him plenty of opportunity to bring further attention to issues around housing, which will hopefully apply more pressure on the government of today, and whatever form that government might take in 2025, to put some real focus on actually trying to resolve the housing crisis. And for me, that can only be a good thing, right? So I say, good luck, purple pingers.
You got cojones.
Go well. I hope you can give it a good shake.